Our starting point tonight is in South Africa. A high court over there has granted an interdict against Shell's seismic survey along the Wild Coast. Now, that is the second application of the sort made to the same court to stop the company's seismic survey. Now, this comes after a court dismissed the application by activists to stop the survey earlier in the month on the basis that irreparable harm to marine species had not been proved. The applicants include the Amadiba, Dwesekebe, Port St. John's and Keymouth communities, which are all small-scale fishing communities. In the application, the applicants argue that Shell does not have the necessary environmental authorization as far as the National Environmental Management Act is concerned to lawfully undertake this seismic exploration activities within the area. All right, then, so let's explore exactly what happened in this case this time round in court. Delmi Kapidio is the Southern Africa Hub Director at Natural Justice. He joins us now from Cape Town. Thank you for your time this evening. Let's, perhaps for the benefit of our viewers, let's just explain what this seismic survey entails and the sort of harm it might do to marine life.
Sure. Thank you, Rama, and thanks to viewers. So the problem with the seismic survey is twofold. The one is that the amount of noise that this will create underwater, because sound travels so much further and faster underwater, is really disruptive to marine life, to the point where we say it could cause irreparable or irreversible harm to marine life. What the experts say to us is that with marine life, particularly creatures such as dolphins and whales and so on, sound is really the way in which they communicate. It's the way that they navigate. It's similar to human beings suddenly being faced by a complete blackout. And then on top of that, the power of the sound waves, our experts have told us, will also cause damage and harm to things like zooplankton, which really form the basis of marine life. It could cause irreparable damage to creatures like turtles. It will destroy their breeding grounds. So what we were able to do in the second case, as distinct from the first case, certainly in the view of the judge in that case, was to bring that expert evidence to bear and to really show, what kind of harm would be caused by these seismic blasts.
I'm glad you brought up that first case, because on the 3rd of December, the first application to essentially have Shell not do these seismic surveys was dismissed, and the same argument basically was made. So is a distinction here the fact that evidence to prove that harm was provided in the second case but not in the first?
I think the short answer is that we were able to bring more evidence to bear in the second case than in the first one. The first one, you must remember, was brought on a very urgent basis, with very narrow time frames, and although we did proffer evidence to that effect, the judge in that case felt that it was not sufficient, and in the second case, I think we had more time to bring more expert evidence to bear.
Okay, so in their defense, just to get back to the Shell question, because in court they basically said that the claims of harm to marine life, in their view, were essentially subjective. But what evidence did they adduce in court to actually support their claim?
None, really. I mean, Shell's advocate was fairly clear in saying that they had no way of really opposing the applicants when they said that their cultural and their spiritual life would be severely harmed by these activities. And Shell in their papers did not deal with this matter at all, which the judge pointed out quite specifically. And so the evidence of the applicants in this case had to be accepted by the court. because Shell essentially just said that, well, people's beliefs are subjective, whereas, we have what they would call objective facts around, their mitigation and so on. But again, I think what's important to point out is that Shell did not bring a single expert. They did not quote a single expert. They simply brought the CEO, the chairperson of the exploration company, whereas the applicants in this case were able to bring, tens of expert evidence of experts to bear, and that was obviously persuasive to the judge in this matter.
Okay, so let me pull back from a regional perspective. Large deposits of natural gas found in Mozambique, Namibia, home to roughly 11 billion, by some estimates, barrels of crude oil. Natural gas thought to be available in the Karoo as well, and we're in this macroeconomic environment where natural gas is becoming a lot more attractive as a sort of transition fuel. Isn't it inevitable, therefore, that you're going to be fighting a lot more cases of this sort against fossil fuel companies that look at South Africa and think, well, there are deposits around here, why shouldn't we be able to bring these to market?
Yeah, I mean, I think you're correct in saying that international oil companies are essentially scouring the coast of Africa for these natural gas and fossil fuel deposits. Our organization, Natural Justice, is engaged in a number of these cases, from KwaZulu-Natal to the Wild Coast, in the Eastern Cape of South Africa, to the West Coast in South Africa, as well as you've mentioned, in Namibia. I mean, the problem really is that this happens in the context of a report which has just been released, which tells us that the world simply cannot afford to have more extraction of these natural gases and oils and fossil fuels, because they will tip us over the balance, over the tipping point. If we use less than 40% of the existing stocks of fossil fuels, we will already surpass that. So the question really is, why are we looking for more oil and gas in a world where I think most reasonable people understand that we are facing a climate crisis, and the argument that this brings, sort of development and economic benefits to local communities simply is not borne out by the facts.
Right.
One can point to Shell activities in Nigeria, for example, and various other places, where those economic benefits are, to paraphrase the judge in a different context, actually not only speculative, but uh, they just never materialize. And what is left is an environment which is destroyed. Um, Marine life, wildlife, uh, livelihoods are just utterly destroyed, and the profits go to a very small number of people, shareholders, those sorts of people,
Right.
and the actual cost is externalized onto people and onto the planet.